Hello and welcome back. This is it. It's my top 10 of the year. Of course, like everyone else who's done a top 10 of the year, there are honorable mentions. I've done every other category I want to do. There's one more category I'm going to do tomorrow, and you'll get to see that video, and it's special to me. So I hope you'll check that video out. But yeah, I'm getting this out the day before the Oscars. This is my top 10. It's a sort of a mix of best slash favorites. It's really hard because there are films that I really like, and then there are films that are subjectively great. So even limiting it down on honorable mentions was really hard for me. The thing about this channel is that while I'm not afraid of pulling punches when I don't like something. I'm here because I like film. So I tend to skew positive on most things. I actually have positive experiences on a lot of films that other people just seem to bemoan and not like. Yes, there are films that don't work and they are bad. Um, but I generally have a fun time at the movies. So you may be surprised by a couple titles that are on this list, but this is just me. And I really don't care if my list aligns with anybody else's. So, also there will be a lot of titles in this list that you won't be surprised by. Maybe a couple titles would be like, why wasn't that on the list? I don't know. I have 279 reviews up of films from this year. I've seen 279 films that were released in 2023. So check your privilege at the door when you try to criticize whether or not I saw enough films to be able to make this list. Did you? How many did you see? uh, anyway, moving into this list, we're going to start off with the honorable mentions. I don't plan on going too much into depth in honorable mentions because that's why there's just honorable mentions. So let's kick it off with Maestro, Barbie, Spider Man Across the Spider Verse, Polite Society. I know this one doesn't appear much on many people's lists, so you're welcome. If you haven't seen this, please do. I'll take the time to say Polite Society again because it was a delightful film, and I think everybody just kind of forgot it existed. Shooting Stars. I really enjoyed this. I really did. It's the live action adaptation of the documentary More Than a Game about LeBron in his early days. I think a lot of people missed this. It was a Peacock, like a straight to streaming Peacock. It wound up on VOD after its Peacock streaming window. I don't know how many people even know this movie exists, but I really wanted to keep it in my list so that more people would see it. I think it's a really solid film. So, Anatomy of a Fall. Leo. Yes, I really liked Leo. If you saw my review of Leo, I really enjoyed Adam Sandler's animated film that he did this past year with Robert Smigel. I thought it was adorable. It was cute. It also seemed to specifically target me as a human being because I actually went to elementary school in Fort Myers, and the film takes place at Fort Myers Elementary School. And I was like, what is happening right now with my life? But Leo makes the cut. Society of the Snow, May, December. Priscilla, The Covenant. This is a film that you probably didn't expect to be here, unless you saw my Best Supporting Actor list and noticed that Dal Salim was my runner-up for Best Supporting Actor this year. Then you would know that I actually really like Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, and was really surprised by it. I did not think I was going to like it. I thought it was just going to be some, Guy Ritchie has not been making great films. I just thought this was going to be more of that. I really enjoyed The Covenant, so I thought he did great work with that. Lakota Nation versus United States, Merry Little Batman, Air, and my final honorable mention. Yes, it didn't make the cut. Is The Zone of Interest. Um, I love my top 10, and The Zone of Interest is technically a great film. I never need to see again, which is also I could say the same thing about Zone of Society of the Snow. They're really good films that I don't think I ever need to see again. So, um, they're really hard watches. So my top 10, and actually some of the honorable mentions I've seen a couple times. I rewatched just to see where did I want their placement? Were they, I've seen Air twice. I've seen Maestro. I've seen The Anatomy of a Fall. So I've seen a couple of those films twice already. Anyway, top 10. Number 10, Saltburn. I actually enjoy this. I enjoy it unironically. I enjoy it unironically before it became like a social media thing. I enjoyed it as soon as it dropped on Prime and was made like more widely accessible to everybody. Um, I like what Emerald Fennell's trying to do here. It's a weird film, but it's one that I'm gonna remember. It's not for everybody. And I love that everybody's having a different reaction to it, and I think that's what film can do, is it can make people have these really interesting reactions to things. Like, is it a comedy? Do we take it seriously? Is it an Oscar bait film? Is it not Oscar bait film? It's nominated for 0 Oscars, but it was nominated for several BAFTAs. So it's like it's all over the place. And I love that people are having that reaction to it. I love that there are people who love it. I love that there are people who hate it. I had a friend of mine who I saw on Facebook. He was like, I didn't get Saltburn. I gave up after 30 minutes. And I was like, you didn't even get to the you gave up while he was still in the college part. Like, you didn't even get to it. Of course you don't get Saltburn if you give up in the first 30 minutes. Like, no wonder. Like, I wouldn't have understood the conversation either on Saltburn if I gave up in the first 30 minutes. So I enjoyed Emma Fennell's last film, Promising Young Woman, very much. I think she's a very talented director, and I'm absolutely on board for whatever her next project is. I'm excited. So, Saltburn is my number 10. My number 9 is Blackberry. I've also seen this film twice. I've seen Saltburn twice. I've seen Blackberry twice. So they earned their spots on this list by me rewatching them and making sure, do I really like this film as much as I did? Does it play? Does it slap the second time? It slaps the second time. Glenn Howerton was my pick for Best Supporting Actor of the Year. Um, I absolutely love Blackberry. I think it's a really nice, tight, solid film. It gives Jay Baruchel his best work. What great casting for Jay Baruchel. He often gets overlooked as just playing, comic relief in something or whatever. It's just such a nice role for him to finally play. I really enjoyed the way this film plays out. I'm really sad that Glenn Howerton didn't get an Oscar nomination this year. Um, he gives one of the most memorable performances of 2023, and this would have been nice as a Canadian production just to see, like, hey, look, Canada makes movies, guys, and they're good. Check it out. Look at that. Um, yeah, if you haven't seen Blackberry, please watch it. It's the film that everybody keeps talking about, and I'm actually, yes, I'm putting it in my top 10. I actually will stand by. I'm not going to do the thing that critics did, where they talked about it all year long and then did nominate it at Critics' Choice. Did nominate Glenn Howerton, even though they spent all year talking about how he deserved all the accolades. No, I'm sticking with Blackberry. I stuck with my Best Supporting Actor nomination. I put my money where my mouth is. Number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Wow. First of all, I really love the Guardians films. I really love what James Gunn has done with them. As a blind person who has not been blind forever, I actually did get to see the first 2 Guardians in theaters. I did not get to see the third one. So the third one, I was fully reliant upon audio description. Actually, every film on my list has audio description. Yes, true. True story. Anyway, um, this is just an emotional ending that works really well. They brought in characters that you really care for. It's dark. While the High Executioner may not be the, I don't know, the most prolific of villains, considering Thanos has drifted through the Guardians universe, it's really hard to kind of top Thanos. Um, they make him nasty by making sure that he's doing nasty things to these creatures. and that then you have a reason to hate him. You have a reason to want to see this guy. He's not just like some guy with some weird relatable no, he's get rid of him. Like, you know, you ultimately want to see the Guardians beat the crap out of him. So he's a great final villain for this team on their last quest. And I love how the film ends, and I put Guardians in a lot of different lists for myself. I put James Gunn in on my director top 10 as an example. Just so you should have been able to see this coming if you were watching my other lists. But yes, I really love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 a lot. Um, moving up the list, number number 7 is Sisu. Wow. I I debated this. I debated, where do I put Sisu? How do I represent Sisu? Is anybody gonna take me seriously if I put Sisu in my top 10? I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't really care. I had the most fun with Sisu. I think of any action franchise type film of the year, Sisu was so just nuts, balls to the wall insanity, but it was so fun, and it takes what makes things work. You know, we play these video games on you know, online. I don't anymore because I'm blind and they're not accessible, but um, it's so easy. You just make the Nazis the villains, and it's just like immediately everybody's like, yes, Nazi zombies. Yes, of course, that's solid. There are films where the Nazi zombies and you fight and you kill them. So of course you want to see this guy prevail. You know, I like, why wouldn't? It's so easy, and it's so it makes the film so great, and the stunts are so over the top, and there are things that he does in this film I've literally never seen before. I don't think I've ever seen in a film. Um, and it had really great audio description. I really enjoyed this experience. And maybe somebody's like, wait a minute, Sisu's on the list and not Zone of Interest. Uh, yeah, listen, I would much rather watch Nazis be killed than I would watch them garden. So I totally got Zone of Interest. I understood what it was doing. I gave it an A. What it does, it just fell short of the list. It's an honorable mention of the most honorable that I can get, but damn, there's something about having a guy just absolutely tear the shit up that you just. Uh, it's almost like watch Zone of Interest and then watch Sisu, and then you'll feel like you had some sort of like cathartic release. You're like, oh god, I really hate those guys. Now I need to watch. Oh wow, good. Okay, so he kills all of them. Good, cool. Yeah. So I loved Sisu. In a year of John Wick Chapter 4, my takeaway was Sisu. So that puts I don't know. Anyway, moving up the list, number 6 is Poor Things. This actually, I don't know if I should spoil this or not. So, Poor Things. Actually, I could say the same thing for Zone of Interest. So, I actually, two of the more recent films that I've seen that would have been added to this list were Poor Things and Zone of Interest. So, I saw Zone of Interest first, and I threw it at number 10. That's how Poor Things, and it knocked it from the list. So if you're really mad at a film, be mad at the fact that I saw Poor Things, because I did have Zone of Interest temporarily, which is why it was the last film that I read in my honorable mentions. Um, and Poor Things just I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. It's so quirky, it's so weird, and Emma Stone is so good in it. It is so bizarre. It is so everything. It's so unique. Um, I wish it wasn't adapted. I wish I could embrace this film even more if it was original. You know, I wish I could just be like, wow. I've heard some of the criticisms about it, about how it is kind of predictable, and it's like where you're going to go next with it. Like, and it's true. I did actually feel like Bella's past was always going to come back to her at some point. I felt like at some point she was always going to find out the truth about herself. Um, but you could say that about a lot of films. You know, I mean, like, there's so many films where it's like, I feel like at some point this is probably going to happen. I've watched too many damn movies. I don't think that that makes it a less enjoyable experience. I think it's still a fun film that just, it would have been weird if she didn't. You know what I'm saying? It would have been weird if she never asked those questions. It would have been weird if nobody ever recognized her. Those would be weird. Those would be weirder things. Those would be weird things. The sequel to Poor Things. So, um, yes, I did really enjoy this, and I would have watched this again, except for I just saw this, and I want to give it just a minute before I watch it again, and but I will. So anyway, moving up the list, number five. I gotta say, first of all, I've been hinting at this a long time. My one through five are different than my six through ten. My one through five, basically this year, I had a really hard time figuring out how to rank them because if I could tie five films for Best Picture, I would. I would actually tie these five films for Best Picture. There's such an infinitesimal. These are films that I adore, I love, and all five of these, I feel like I don't know if Poor Things is an instant classic for me yet. I do need to rewatch it, but all five of these films hit me in very specific ways, and I think they instantly became desert island films, if that term is right. So at number five, I have All of Us Strangers, which I was really upset it didn't get any Oscar recognition at all. Probably more so than any other film because I'm afraid of the reasons why it didn't get the nomination and people writing it off as just being another LGBT film and not taking the time to actually watch it because obviously BAFTA did watch it and they got what this film was. You can see it in the shortlist that they released, and you can see it in the actual nominations. Andrew Haig's All of Us Strangers is one of the most profound films of the year. For everybody who was saying Past Lives, they should have also been saying this. Um, I totally respect Past Lives. It's not in my top 25 just because I didn't have that relationship. So the thing that hits everyone in Past Lives doesn't hit me the same way because I just didn't have that. But what I do have are people that have passed that I would love to have one more conversation with, that I'd love to see again one more time. That if I could go back to that moment as I am now, and if I could see them as they were, the core at All of Us Strangers, um, that really worked for me, and that was an emotional experience for me. So what everybody kind of felt for Past Lives, I felt it for All of Us Strangers. So you can just interchange that. If you have Past Lives in your top 10, it's because you likely connected to that on a very specific level. For this, I connected to what All of Us Strangers was giving me on a very specific level. So I, yeah, it's even less so about the relationship. While I agree that we need to explore, so we know who Andrew Scott's character is, and he has to have a character to explore himself through, which is Paul Mescal. This it's mainly the really emotional stuff is his work with Claire Foy and Jamie Bell. This is an exceptional film. Please watch it. It's available currently on Hulu if you have Hulu. It has audio description, and yeah, I'm really happy for it to be here. It just wound up being fifth because honestly, it's I think it's the most depressing of my five best pictures, the five that I would have tied, which means I'll probably watch it the least because it's a film that you have to be in the mood for. It doesn't immediately have that. Oh yeah, I'm gonna watch it again. Moving up the list, number four, American Fiction, which actually just dropped on MGM Plus, as I just haven't had time to rewatch it. Um, I do really love American Fiction. I think this is a great film. I think it was perfectly written for Jeffrey Wright. I think it's one hell of a debut from Court Jefferson. I'm so happy that everybody loves American Fiction the way that it is. This is a film that, and as soon as I saw it, I threw it up at the top of my list. I was like, oh my god, I have no idea what to do with my best pictures anymore. Um, and it just is number four. I don't really have a rhyme or reason behind it. Um, I don't know really what makes it number four, except to say that it's the one here that I haven't seen twice. So one of the five. So I didn't have that reflection period. I know it just dropped. I could have watched it again, but I just didn't. I haven't had time. I will watch it, and maybe I don't think that would change much. Um, so it is of my top five. It's the only one that I haven't seen twice. So I think that's probably the only reason why it's fourth, because all of these are basically the same. Anyway, um, yeah. So fantastic script from Court Jefferson. I guess we'll find out how good of a director he is when he does his follow up. That'll be the big question. I want to see him direct something else, and I want to see where he goes from there. I have a feeling he's probably a great director, but I debut directors, you never really know until you see that second project. There are some people who directed a film and they just went on to kind of do nothing. Um, and even though you look back at their film and you're like, wow, that's what happened to that guy. They went and directed TV shows. Okay, but they had a really strong debut. I don't know what happened. So I hope the best for Court Jefferson because I think he's a bright light. He reminds me a lot of Justin Simeon. So please don't direct another Disney movie. Court, stay away from Disney. Anyway, moving on. Number three for me is Oppenheimer. Yeah, I'm not going to be the basic bitch that puts Oppenheimer at number one. Do I love Oppenheimer? Yeah. I had a complicated relationship with Oppenheimer because my theatrical experience wasn't great. I've mentioned this to death. I was basically the only one. It was a giant theater that was set to obviously. I happened to show up. I did like an early matinee, and it was obviously set to sold out volume and where you have people in the theater who can absorb the sound, and nobody ever thought to change it. So it was set at deaf for me. And I actually, it was so bad that I really had a hard time fully understanding the sound design or even the score to the film. Um, Oppenheimer, for me, to be totally honest, was not really in contention to be a top player until I saw it again, until I saw it at home. A lot of people are like, you have to see this on the big screen. I saw it at home where the sound design was balanced. What I heard performances better. I heard the score, and I could actually hear the sound design a lot better because it was balanced. This is a film that can be oddly manipulated in theaters in a very negative way. Um, and maybe that's not the best sound design. If your projectionist can make it so loud that it ruins other aspects of the film, then it's possible. But when I did the rewatch, I was like, man, this is a really great film. You know, it actually I already had it at an A because I love Nolan and I was engaged the whole time. He had me for 3 hours, which is almost impossible to do without feeling the runtime. I felt the runtime on Killers. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt the runtime on Napoleon. I feel runtime on other films. So I think on Oppenheimer, I think it was after the bomb test was when I first checked my watch, and just to note like where we were in the film, I was like, "Damn, we're that far already? What?" It's like, what else could possibly be left? And then I was still engaged, but I just happened to look at at the what time it was at that point. Anyway, I have watches that speak to me, so and what everything speaks to me. So I'm not actually looking. I'm using terms. Don't hold me to them. But yes, so Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan. It's not my favorite Christopher Nolan film. It's damn close. I don't think he'll ever beat The Dark Knight for me. The Dark Knight is a top five film for me of all time. Everything I've ever seen, The Dark Knight is one of the films that I usually answer the question with, "What's your favorite film of all time?" I try to cycle through one of like five films. The Dark Knight is one of those films. I don't use it as much because I feel like it's a little overused, but it doesn't change the way I feel about it. Um, so when you already have a film, just like to be totally honest, I think Steven Spielberg is a great director. He also directed Jurassic Park. I don't know that he'll ever beat that experience for me. I can watch all the rest of his films and be like, wow, this is a really great film. Jaws is fantastic. Jaws just doesn't have the same connection to me that Jurassic Park does. Jaws is probably the better film. I'll acknowledge that, but Jurassic Park is the film that I love. Jurassic Park is the film that if I had to watch a film 10 times back to back, I'd choose Jurassic Park, you know. Um so yeah, I don't know, but I know that Oppenheimer deserves to be where it is, and it'll probably win this year. But I have two films above it. One of them is not even in the race this year. One of them is not even nominated for anything. My number two, which was my number one for a long time, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. This film caught me off guard. I've seen it twice, just like I said I have for a lot of these films. I did go back to make sure that I do love it as much as I do. I do. It's not just some weird, silly coming of age teen thing that doesn't deserve to be where it is. It's serious. It deals with a lot of undertones of anti-Semitism. It deals a lot with exploring religion and feeling lost, and also has one hell of a performance from Abby Ryder Fortson, who is trying to find her way in the world. Rachel McAdams has literally never been better. This is her best performance as an actress, and she should have been recognized as supporting actress. Um, and uh, it's just it's a really great film. I never read the book. I'm not a Judy Blume fan. Um, and I ended up watching Judy Blume Forever this year, which I thought was a great documentary. It's tough for me to put documentaries in my top 25 because I know I'm never going to watch them again. I'm not really a big documentary rewatcher, so I included Lakota Nation versus United States because it was my pick for best documentary of the year, and I didn't, with a year with so many great documentaries, I didn't want to not have any documentaries on the list at all. But it is highly unlikely that I would ever rewatch any of the documentaries. I think the only one I've ever seen twice is Food Inc., and that was just by happenstance. I don't really rewatch documentaries, so I don't know why. It's just a thing I don't do. I'm not big on it. Anyway, um, but I do love this film. It deserved more than it got, and yeah, it should have gotten something. Really, really should have gotten Rachel McAdams, and at least some kind of recognition. But it is my number two film for the year. So what's my pick for Best Picture? You probably guessed. There's a film that I haven't said yet, and there are a couple films I haven't said yet. But if your guess is The Holdovers, then you are correct. My pick for Best Picture of the year is The Holdovers. I really enjoyed this. I've seen it twice. I've seen it both times were after Christmas because both times were on Peacock, which dropped it after Christmas, which is weird. So I never saw it in the context of a holiday film, but it is a holiday film, and it still worked, and I still loved it. And Dominic Sessa is one hell of a discovery. Whoever found that kid deserves like $1 million raise just immediately. Um, Whoever found him, just congratulations, sir. Please start yourself your own casting agency and just be like, I discovered Dominic Sessa. That's the name of your agency. Um, yeah, it is just a phenomenal film that is funny, heartwarming, sad, dramatic. Um, it has weight at the end. It's a film that reminds you that no matter how somebody is, uh, when you deal with them on a daily basis, when you really pull back layers, we're all dealing with something. We all have something behind it. And it's three people who all seem like they have these really strong personalities who are all dealing with something. And yes, Divine Joy Randolph's performance is amazing, and it is a little bit more obvious what she's dealing with, but it's an obvious part of her character. But as you continue to learn more about Giamatti and Sessa's characters, that's where you really kind of see that the film is a little bit more complicated than you might be giving it credit for. I credit a lot of this to the fact that it's not written by Alexander Payne. It's written by David Hemmingson, who clearly is making a stamp for himself here by writing this film. Alexander Payne usually writes his own films, and he has a very specific style to them, and they haven't always worked. I don't like all of Alexander Payne's stuff. I know for some people that's a boogeyman name. That's a name we shouldn't be talking about. But I don't usually like all of Alexander Payne's things. I wasn't that big of a fan of Nebraska, for example. it was okay. I liked some of the performances in it, but as a film, it just didn't quite hit me the way it did some other people. So here he's directing somebody else's script. That script is fire. Um, this is my best picture of the year, and by the narrowest of margins, because I love the entire top five. So, and actually, I love my entire top 10. Actually, I love my entire top 10 plus the honorable mentions. So, and a few more films, to be honest. It was really hard to cut down. I basically said 25 titles. So, anyway, thanks for watching this year. And I think I'm done. I know there are a couple films that still have to release on streaming, and I'll probably end up watching them. But I'm going to start finally reviewing films from 2024. So, I've actually seen a lot of them, but I've been trying to put out 2023 releases as much as possible. It's kind of get them out because they're older. Now I need to catch up on 2024 and start releasing those reviews. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.